Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thanks so much for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. Now, I know that you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I'm delighted to welcome back a very special friend and guest. Jude Bijou is with me again today. Jude, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's just so great to be with you today.
I just love our conversations, and I want to remind our new listeners that you are a very well respected psychotherapist, professional educator, and consultant. And you have a theory of attitude reconstruction, which has evolved over the course of more than 30 years as a licensed marriage and family therapist. And it's the subject of your multi award winning book, which I love, 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 Attitude Reconstruction, a blueprint for building a better life. But Jude, today I want to really tap your expertise on the topic of communication, because I know in your practice and in your research and in your work as an author, this is just such a hot topic. So let's dive in, and I would love for you to break down the 4 rules of good communication.
Perfect. All right, so here's where I'd like to start. And that is to just give you an idea that everything's based on emotions, sadness, anger, fear, and the opposites, joy, love, and peace.
Okay.
So the 4 rules are going to be things that increase the amount of joy, love, and peace you feel and decrease the amount of sadness, anger, and fear.
Got it. Got it.
Okay, so the first rule is that we just have to talk about ourselves, right? Rather than youing each other and telling the other person, blaming and sarcasm and all those shoulds. Rather than that, we have to turn it around 180 degrees and just focus on being true to ourselves, on knowing what we want and what's true for us and speaking that.
So what else, Jude? Let's give me a specific. Is there something in particular that you can reverse the you speak and own it as an I speak about oneself?
Absolutely. Let me give you some examples.
Okay.
You could either say, "You never help me with the dishes," or you
Ah,
could say, "I need some help washing the dishes right now."
and now I have clarity. That is brilliant. Such a simple example, but that really resonates. Now, am I correct in understanding that the way that is received by the person that you're signaling is much more pleasant, right?
Absolutely. They're open to that because you're not finger pointing and telling them, you never help with the dishes. You're just speaking about what you need right now.
Love it. Love it.
Let me give you another example. You
Okay.
could go, "You're monopolizing the conversation," or you can turn it around and go, "I have something that I'd like to say."
I love it. I love it. It really removes the angst, right, from the phrase, and it just personalizes it away. And when I hear that, I think I need to give this person space.
Exactly, because you know what's true for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can
Love
say,
it.
because we do this all the time, we go, "Are you ready to go home?" or "What do you want for dinner?" rather than saying, "I'm ready to go home now."
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it's about ownership. I love it. Okay.
Exactly. That's the I. We've got to own what's true for us.
Okay. So what's next?
Right?
What's our second rule?
All right. So, what I did in those examples is I was very specific. So, specifics mean is something that we use in architecture, in engineering, in finance, in cooking, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We deal in specifics, computers for sure, but nobody told us we needed to communicate and think in specifics. So that means we forget the future and all of the implications, and we forget dragging in the past, and we watch out for those always, you always, and you never, and all those kind of things that just make us feel so much fear and confusion. And you stick with what's specific and true about one thing at a time.
So I think I get you. I'd love an example, Jude, if you can clarify that.
Well, I could go, what's your problem again? Or I'm upset and I want to talk about what happened just now.
There we go.
So
There we
I'm
go.
not saying you always, leave me at the party and go be with your friends. I'm talking about last night at the party.
Right. Because that gives the listener something to zero in on, right? And now you have a
It's
conversation.
about something specific, and you can say what specifically you didn't like about it and how you felt, but
And you,
you're not bringing in the whole kitchen sink and not making it into, are we going to get a divorce?
right, right. Or a work divorce, right? Because we know too that this is so applicable in the work scenario too, the organizational culture of a work environment. Excellent.
Absolutely. Because we are so specific in business,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to be that in our communication.
Got it.
Just watch those always and nevers. They just fry our brain. It's like, whoa, hold on, and now we're ready to fight. It's sort of like, no, we got to just deal with one thing at a time. And I'm going to say what's specific about that, what's concrete.
It's interesting that you say now we're ready to fight. I get that. I can just see the posture change, right? When someone uses those generalities like always or never, right? It just puts everybody on guard.
It's you versus me. The same
Hmm.
things with I versus you. When somebody uses us and tells us about how we should be, we put up our fingers and cross our fingers and go, no way, I'm
Right.
not listening.
Not me. Right.
Yeah, we don't respond to use except that when we're angry, instead of moving out that anger energy constructively, we take it out verbally and make those zingers for people and put them down and all those things. That's just our anger misplaced.
Okay. So what about number three?
All right, so we know now that we have, and it's a practice. Eyes and specifics sounds so simple. I say that they're simple but not easy, because we're not used to focusing in on, oh, well, what is true for me? And what's the specific thing that I want to deal with, that I want to address at that time? Because we can address them all, but one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Okay.
All right, so you got the two rules. All right, eyes and specifics. So there's another flavor, and that is kindness. Kindness, and that's something that means we can throw in what we like, what we appreciate, what we're grateful for, what's similar between my viewpoints and your viewpoints, what's positive. Stay away from the negative. The negative just doesn't move a conversation forward. It's not what doesn't work, it's what is going to work. That's kind. We can move this forward and find a solution together.
I love that because kindness is so simple, right? But it's so well received. And when it's authentic and genuine, it's just the right thing to do.
It brings love. That's
Yeah.
the emotion of love. It warms the heart.
Is there any fear, Jude, that when you're trying to include praise or appreciation or gratitude, that someone might fear that you're buttering them up? Is that ever an issue, or is it about authenticity and delivery?
It's about authenticity. And, yes, absolutely. It's just plain and simple. A genuine, nobody can fault you for saying what you genuinely heartfelt do, as you look for the situation and look for the good in it and voice that. I mean, if they do, they're having a bad day or a bad week, and we do it anyway
Hmm.
because it's true. It's, gee, I appreciate working together. Just those simple words go so far. If somebody's having a hard day, hey, you really did a great job on that project.
Excellent.
Simple stuff.
And we don't
Simple.
say it enough. I think, especially in the work environment, we don't appreciate and show gratitude enough. Certainly, we can do it more in our lives on the whole, but I think at work, it's certainly something to think about. It's a great challenge.
Oh, but just it changes the whole work environment.
It sure
Because,
does.
yeah, because you don't feel defensive and are people going to pick apart? No, we're going to really, praise the good.
love it.
So we've got 3 rules, and like the real simple rules: eyes, specifics, and kindness.
Okay.
All right. So there's a 4th rule, and the 4th rule is that we gotta listen. That means put duct tape over the mouth
I like it.
and just listen. I teach a class in communication, and that's when I get to this part about listening. I said, now who feels listened to enough? And nobody raises their hand, or maybe one person. So everybody's sitting there with a deficit of just so much wanting to be listened to, and feel like that they're listening all the time to other people. It's just we're not listening. We're not seeking to understand what another person is thinking or describing or feeling. So brings love, brings connection. Oh, I know you. Oh, okay, I understand.
I
Such a
thank
simple
you. Yeah,
tool.
I love that you just said it brings love. That's so uh, so simple and so true and so genuine and authentic. We feel validated when we are listened to, and that's a beautiful feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a gesture of giving. I can give my attention and seek to understand. I don't have to agree, but I
Mm,
need to put myself in their shoes and understand why what's true for them is true for them.
got it. Jude, you also talk about not interrupting, and I can tell you, as a gregarious extrovert, that's a challenge for me. I get excited, and if I have the benefit of eye contact, I can read someone's body language, but quite often my interruption is not meaningfully negative. It's just excitement on my part. However, it tells me I need to be a better active listener. Any thoughts for me and others who interrupt? It's just part of our personality pattern.
Well, there's something really neat to go when you become the listener.
Mm,
Instead of, because you're ready to take an active role again and be, talking in eyes and specifics and kindness, telling a story, whatever, where you're missing that half of the equation of the exchange.
got it. Got it. That helps. That helps a lot. Jude, let's talk a little bit about how the 4 rules apply to resolving differences, whether it's in your personal life or at work.
Okay. This is really, it puts the 4 rules together. And that is that you exchange time. That means one person is just going to listen, and the other person is going to talk in eyes and specifics and kindness. And
Okay.
we're going to do it for a set amount of time. And I'm going to just listen. So there I understand you. I'm not talking about, what the solution is. I'm talking about what's true for you. And I'm not debating, and I'm just trying to understand. So it's putting on that duct tape and just listening. And then when you put it on like 2 minutes on a timer, or if you have a group of people, you go and you give everybody 1 minute, but you do a timer so that
So it's
one
fair.
doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah, so that everybody gets heard. And then you reset the timer. And, if you're in a dyad, the other person just listens, and the one who's been talking, and you go back and forth to just understand what's true. Just, the background, why you want whatever you want, but and I guess making sure that you have a specific topic in mind, one topic at a time. And so I'm going to talk about that topic. This is what's true for me. Now I'm going to listen. This is what's true for me.
And the timer really keeps it honest, right? So enthusiastic and well-meaning interrupters like me can really have boundaries. That's brilliant. I like that.
Yes. And that's so great. Like if you're busy and you come home from a big busy day at work, and maybe the kids are there, or just so many obligations, to just take 10 minutes, like, put in 3 minutes and just sit down with your partner and listen to
Yeah.
the bell goes off, the person finishes their sentences, and then the other person talks about what's going on for them. And in 6 minutes, then you can end with some appreciations that you've reconnected. And then you can get on with preparing dinner and taking care of all of the logistics of the day.
What a beautiful way to sort of reboot, when you come home to really refocus on the personal relationships in your life. I love that.
Yeah, connect. Again, it fosters love. We connect. That's what, a relationship is about. We're supporting each other. We're understanding. Because when we get off the track, the listening has stopped. The
Right.
the anger is there, and we're into differences rather than really trying to understand. I say I didn't invent this, but we fall in love with someone who praises us and who appreciates us. Somebody who gives us positive reinforcement.
Right. Right. So, Jude, I'd like to ask you, how do we communicate with others who are perhaps dealing with sadness or anger or fear or even grief? That communication is different because of the heightened emotions of the other person. So talk to me about that.
Okay, but if we have a minute, I want to go back to the second part of this
Mm,
resolving differences.
please go for it, my dear. Go for
Okay, so
it.
we got back and forth until the two people, they have the specific topic in mind, whether where they're going to go on a vacation, and people want something different. They're going to listen to each other about all of that until they all both feel understood, not agreed upon, but understood. Then they put it aside and they don't bring it back up. Now they
Ah,
together, because they both feel understood, because went back and forth and back and forth. Now together they're solving the problem. They're dealing in specifics. Well, what are our options? But they're doing it together. It's not one person taking charge. We do it together after we've talked and listened and understood each other. It can go from anywhere from United Nations down to you talking with your child.
beautiful. I like it.
So that's the thing. It's easy because you're on the same team then. You've understood each other, and now you're looking and working together as a team. And that, increases love and accomplishments and so on. All right, so that's all. Sorry, that just me
That's
wanting to.
good. Oh, I
So,
appreciate you
yeah,
closing the loop. That's
yeah.
fantastic. So,
But
I was thinking specifically, I have a friend who's dealing with grief right now after the loss of a loved one, and she's in a very fragile place. And you articulate too how people are in a different place when they're dealing with anger or fear. So, how do we adjust our communications with those folks?
that's a lovely question. It really is, because that's a secret, like that we all need, because we all come in contact with people who are under the sway of a lot of emotions. So the first, your friend who is experiencing the loss needs to be validated for her crying. And
Mm,
it's like, oh, it's okay to cry. You feel sad, wail, cry. Let that energy out of the body, because it's if not, we're carrying it around for days and months and years, and we don't get over a loss. Where if we just cry and say goodbye to the person over and over, and cry it out, we feel better. But so that's particular when you have a loss. But in general, when the person who's glum or who's sort of down, that's a person who has a lot of sadness. And what they really that really gets them is because what they're really needing are appreciations.
okay.
Their self-worth is a little sagging. And so they need, of course, to tell themselves that they're whole and complete, and they kick ass and so on. But that's such a good reminder for them, because you got to offset the bombardment of where the mind goes when we don't cry enough.
And crying is such an important thing, right? It's so cathartic. It's the body's way of releasing that stress And as you said, let it go. Let the energy out of your body. I love that, Jude.
Yeah, it's just energy. It's emotion, emotion, energy and motion. And it's you don't, go and cry about, oh, nobody likes me. You cry and you just say, I just feel sad. It's
Hmm.
okay to cry. I'm okay. And that's the kind of thing. And that's what we want to hear from other people. Those are the same messages. It's okay to cry. It's okay. And I love you.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. So, Jude, in closing, let's talk about some ideas that you have, maybe some general tips that will improve our communication.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to this thing that because it's so important, because so many of us live with people who have a lot of unexpressed anger.
Oh, please. Okay.
And the thing that it's something we've talked about is what you it's not a time to debate those people because they've got a lot of energy. They need to be understood. You really need to employ that fourth rule about listening. You don't have to agree, but they really need to feel understood because they feel very misunderstood. And so that you don't let them you, or if they do, you let it go by. But you try to get them back to talking about their eyes and about the specific and all of that kind of stuff. But you just listen. You just listen and understand their position. That's what's most responsive for them. And the third one, which is so fascinating, it's fear, because we know those fear people, they're overwhelmed and
Yeah.
agitated and all of that. And what they really respond to and what they really need is reassurance. Everything will be okay. We'll do this together, one thing at a time. It's all right. I'm in this with you. So those kind of reassuring things, you can't reassure an angry person because they don't respond to
Right.
that.
Right.
They want to be understood. But the fear person, the one who's feeling the anxiety and the agitation, really just like when mom, or that fantasy of mom when we were a little baby, just reassured us, and
Mm.
it's okay. It's
Hmm.
okay. These three bridges of what to do for sadness and anger and fear are so valuable because it's overwhelming when we see strong emotions.
The power of listening is just extraordinary. It's such a healing process for both, I think, for both communicators, and listening is certainly a form of communication.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent. So, Jude, let's talk a little bit about, as I mentioned, general tips to improve our communication. You've given us 4 rules of good communication. Any other ideas that we can incorporate? And let's be specific, perhaps, in our work life, because I know you and I have had conversations before about some passive aggressive behavior at work, right? Or stressed behavior at work. So, how can we be more keenly aware of how to communicate well with our colleagues?
Absolutely. Because the tips, I don't have anything more to say on communication besides you got to follow those four rules.
Okay.
So it's just, they're so simple, but it's not a complicated system. So I've got to remember to stick with what's true for me about a specific topic. And
Excellent.
then I've got to communicate that. It's like I've got to speak up. If I don't, I'm going to be internalizing it and feel resentful and, you know, disappointed or whatever. So I've got to speak up, but I'm speaking up in a way that has the most reception because I'm talking about myself, about specific things.
Excellent. Jude, it's always a joy to have you on. I love having a conversation with you, and I learn so much every time. And I'm a big fan of your book, Attitude Reconstruction, a blueprint for building a better life. So, remind our listeners how they can buy your book and how they can follow you on social media.
Absolutely. Everything's under the name Attitude Reconstruction. So that's the name of the website, www.attitudereconstruction.com. And then you can sign up for a monthly newsletter or be on the list to get my blogs. Uh, You can also buy the book there on the website, or you can get it through Amazon, or you can order it through any bookstore. Um, so it's so practical. It's so very spiritual and yet very, very practical. And it's just like, why didn't somebody tell us this?
You did, and that's what's so wonderful. And I have to say, too, I am the happy beneficiary of your blog and also your newsletter, which I get regularly. So I thank you for that. And I highly encourage our listeners to sign up for those free resources that Jude sends. They're a breath of fresh air, some great reminders, and wonderful, wonderful wisdom and advice from Jude Bijou. Jude, thank you so much, my dear. You have a great rest of the day, and I'm delighted that you could spend this time with me on the show.
Oh, it is just my pleasure. I wish you a great rest of the day.
Thank you, my dear. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning into Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is really possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.